Welcome to another edition of Gen CFP, the show whose name everyone loves.
They definitely didn't send me mean messages all weekend about how mad they are they can't yell foot at me anymore.
And yet they still will, Lucy.
They still will.
I think every comment on last week's video was like, Foot Girls was better. And you know what? Neither of us co-signed that.
No.
That was a Mike Ryan thing.
You are not my target audience. I don't want a man to tell me that they like to yell foot at me. I don't want that.
Yeah. I mean, we get why.
We get it.
But we wanted to make our own name. And
But-
now we get to do the show with Dan's hairy arm behind my head.
But I will say Mike Ryan did a great job on the music video.
No, don't. Just,
Yeah, he did
like,
do
get
a-
out of here. You
did-
were not
you did a-
invited to this episode.
No, you did a great job on the music video. It was very funny. I appreciated all the creativity, but I hated the name of the show, which you did choose, but you did so well with it.
His presence is now guilting you into acknowledging him and the work he put into something that we didn't ask for.
We didn't ask for it, but
In fact, I would say I didn't ask for any of this.
no, not particularly. So, happy bowl season, I guess.
Happy bowl season,
Happy
Lucy.
bowl
How are you
season.
finding the bowls this year?
I've been impressed so far. The famous Toastery Bowl. Wow.
Electric.
Right out of the gate, good stuff.
Yeah, I know, like, talking about your bets or your pick'ems or your fantasy teams, like, no one really cares. No one wants to hear about it, but I'm going to do it for just 1 second.
Please.
So bear with me.
I want to hear.
I go ham on bowl season pick'ems. Like, my family has been doing it for as long as I've been alive. Over 20 years we've been doing pick'ems, and we always do, like, a straight up pick a winner, the person with the most winner wins. But recently I've gotten into the confidence pick'em game, which is, like, probably the most commonly found one on ESPN. Ooh, and it's hard because I have no confidence in any of these
None.
games. There are so many players not playing. There are so many players in the portal. Coaches gone. Coaches coming and going. It's just a mess. And so I had Western Kentucky, and I felt very confident in them. And then I turned on the game in the first quarter, and it was like 21-0 Old Dominion. And I was like, I got so mad, and this is irrational, and I shouldn't have done this. I got so mad I turned it off. What? I turned off the famous Toastery Bowl. And then, like, an hour later, my friends were over, and I was like, I need to turn the famous Toastery Bowl back on because it's a bowl game. I don't care if it's one-sided or whatever. I'm going to turn it back on. And I witnessed, after that moment, one of the most electric, confusing, penalty-laden comebacks in college football history. Western Kentucky won. I won that game in my confidence pool, and I celebrated like Notre Dame had won the national championship.
It was, we've had this year, it just has felt like, last year I feel like we got kind of screwed in, maybe I'm remembering things wrong. I don't know. Today's been a long day.
They all are. It doesn't help that we also record this segment like last out of everything that we do, and my brain's usually scrambled eggs by like hour 2, and then this is like post hour 2.
People have been tweeting at me stuff we said today. I don't remember it. I don't remember saying it.
Couldn't tell you anything that I've said in 2.5 years doing this job.
And it with this nice little, like, what's the tangent, segue, whatever we've done here. I don't even know.
Bowl games.
I forgot what we were talking about. But we were talking about bowl
you said
games.
we were cheated last year.
Yeah, maybe not even cheated last year, but maybe cheated this regular season. We didn't have a ton of upsets. We had, like, good regular season games. I think we're due for a good bowl slate this year. I think we've already had, like, a pretty decent shot. Like, I only got to watch the first half of UTSA Marshall, but it was really fun. The famous Toastery Bowl was great.
Yeah, UTSA Marshall was so Marshall came out very strong, and then UTSA, like, something happened to them after the first quarter, and they just decided, like, we're gonna actually play really good football now, and they won that game pretty dominantly. But the thing that happened after the game is what bowl season has become about, which is like the full, like, head first diving into sponsors doing silly things. And they dumped a vat of cold brew on Jeff Traylor, the UTSA head coach. And he said afterwards he will never forget the feeling of that cold brew running down his crack.
Well, that's what the bowl season's about. People say that capitalism has no good things, and I disagree, man. Watch the famous Idaho Potato Bowl and tell me that capitalism isn't serving some sort of purpose.
How have we not been doing that? Like, how did this, with the Idaho Potato Bowl and the French fries, like, how is this, like, a recent thing? Like, what were we doing? We're in the dark ages for all of these years. Jeremy, you're nodding your head. You agree with me.
I couldn't agree with you more. I really am so amazed that we weren't using more gimmicks all the way around.
What have we
like
been doing?
looking at like the Bad Boy Mowers Gasparilla Bowl. Like
Dump a
everyone
lawnmower
should be,
on
yeah,
someone's head.
or just like ride around on lawnmowers at the end of it.
Before they used to have lawnmower races the week.
I remember
leading up
that.
to
You're
it.
right,
Yeah.
but it's got to be a post game response. I'm seeing myself in the camera right now. I still
Yeah,
look
you
like
look
Brian
ridiculous.
Fantana. I look awful.
The Toastery Bowl, though, is a great example.
They had
threw
so many toast everywhere.
Players were doing toast angels on the field, and I was like, "Oh my God, they're doing toast angels!" And everyone's like, "What does that mean?" Well, they were doing like snow angels, but like in a sporadically
Tangels.
tossed toast on the field. Yeah, penalty box.
What?
Penalty box.
From here?
I feel so
I
powerful.
thought you
in
guys
this seat.
supported me.
Penalty
Yeah,
box.
sometimes you make it hard to do that.
Okay, you can come back. You can come
You
back.
can come back. You
Thanks.
can come back. The only issue we run into with the fun bowl gimmicks is like, man, that's gotta suck to go play in like the TurboTax Bowl and be like, well,
Or like,
great.
yeah, like
The IRS
Get an
is here.
accountant there to do your
Congratulations.
taxes for you.
you also don't want the sponsors to take it too far because
Yeah.
we do have a bowl sponsored by Lockheed Martin.
Yeah.
So
Hey guys, everyone gets a extreme grade weapon.
America.
USA.
Anyways, the bowls have been really good. It was weird that, like, we talked last week about how bowl season started kind of like surprisingly out of nowhere
So
this year
fast.
because and like all of this has to do with like the television networks and mainly the NFL schedule, and they don't have bowl games on at the same time as NFL games. I get that, but the Wednesday before we were recording this, no bowl game. I got used to my bowl game NFL schedule, and then Wednesday rolled around. Maybe it was because it was National Signing Day. Maybe it was because there was other nationally broadcast games that day. No bowl game. So we were deprived for one day, and I felt bowl game withdrawal. So now we're back in it, Lucy, and I'm excited for the rest of these.
No, I am so pumped. I think we're going to kind of focus on the New Year's Six bowls today because we still only have a short amount of time to talk about college football. Not
Yeah,
enough.
They still only give us like 20 minutes. So we're going to talk about the New Year's Six bowl games, obviously the playoffs, the national championship. This is our last episode of Gen CFP
Pew, pew,
until
pew, pew,
after New Year's. So I guess we won't talk about the national championship. That doesn't make sense. That's
Yeah.
on the 8th.
That's on the 8th, so we'll have time.
We'll be back maybe like the 4th
Yeah.
or the 5th. Maybe the 6th. Probably not the 6th. Probably the 5th. And we're also going to talk about a little news. Do you want to start with this Florida State situation?
Yeah, so, like, we all sort of predicted when Florida State got left out of the playoff because of Jordan Travis's injury, mainly because they were in the ACC, is the actual reason. I pretty much knew that Florida State was out on remaining in the ACC. This was always going to be something that happened well before they got left out of the playoff. Florida State, Clemson, I believe Virginia, UNC, and then like NC State was like us too, kind of snuck in there, and they were like, we have had it with the ACC. So Florida State is now, they've called just like a random meeting to talk about leaving the ACC, which you may be like, well, you know, they had to, you know, they went 12-0 this year. Why would they leave the ACC? Because the ACC respectfully is poor, and they don't, they're poor. Rutgers makes so much more money than Florida State. I mean, they're going to burn it really fast. But like Purdue, way more money than Florida State, which is crazy. And I know in this day and age of NIL and recruiting, you're going to want those facilities. You're going to want that money to be able to, you know, win football games, win national championships in non-revenue sports, which Florida State is great in non-revenue sports. So
Won the women's soccer national
Yeah.
championship this year.
their softball team kicks ass.
Yeah.
So we're in this weird. Florida State is pretty much doing everything they can to leave the ACC, get out of those grant of rights. However, the ACC has called that an ironclad document. There's no way to get out of it. But Florida State, I am in the Florida State little Facebook group. They're going to find a way. They have gone full delusion. They're going to find a way.
So you've been reading Florida State fans' reactions to all of this on Facebook, which seems like the most dangerous game.
It absolutely is. Me and Jeremy were talking about it earlier. How I was like, sometimes you're like, I can't understand how people get in these crazy, like, wild conspiracy theory. 1 hour in the Florida State Facebook group, you get it. They have convinced themselves ESPN is the one who has done this. They are trying to
ESPN's out to get them.
Yeah, Kirk Herbstreit is trying to get Florida State. It is a dark but interesting and funny place to be.
I don't blame fans for being upset at the television networks, but I feel like it's not because of the talking heads talking about their teams. It's because of the executives that are behind a lot of the conference realignment decisions that are being made, and that's what's caused this huge gulf. Although I will say, like, when it comes to Florida State and the ACC and this grant of rights, they're in a bad deal that they agreed to.
And their solution for this, if they cannot, just abandon the ACC, which that's best case scenario, is getting out of the ACC. However, there are so many, things that go into this document where it's like, okay, you can leave the ACC. You pay I believe it's multiple millions and millions of dollars to get out.
It could be like $120 million. Basically, like, if they want to leave, they can. It's going to cost so much money in legal fees. Is it going to be worth it? Like, that's the calculation that it sounds like they're going to be making.
And even if they leave, the ACC still owns the rights to broadcast anything that happens in Tallahassee. So if Florida State has a home game against, Texas, you're great. You're not going to broadcast that anywhere because that still belongs to the ACC, and that's going to kill your revenue even more. So even if you do join the SEC, you're not getting the piece of that TV network pie. They're in a really terrible situation. It seems like the most likely solution, because I do not think they're going to get out of this document or this, grant of rights, is the ACC restructuring their model where it's not an equal base revenue share, where every team in the Big Ten right now gets the same amount of money. That's fine because every big team in the Big Ten is getting an insane amount of money. But when you look at what revenue, Wake Forest brings in to the ACC compared to Florida State, it's going to be vastly different. So Florida State thinks it should be based off more of, hey, here are our TV ratings, here are our, how many championships we win. Schools are going to lose money in the process of this. But, also, I understand it. In the name of,
no one wants to make less money. But I think also what's the struggle with the ACC has been that, there are certain athletic departments that are content with their size and aren't trying to grow and keep up with athletic departments in, the SEC or the Big Ten, although obviously everyone wants more money all the time. And then you have schools like Florida State and Clemson and maybe the current regime at Miami right now that are no, we want to be making $50 million a year. We're not going to settle for 23 or 25 or whatever. I don't know. It's a mess. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't really know what's going to happen. I don't know if they can break the grant of rights or if they can pay their way into some negotiation. I have no idea. I don't know how much this will cost. It doesn't seem like they're worried about money right now, though. They just are very mad and fed up. I don't know if they do try to leave the ACC, which conference wants them, because they've all said, we're done. But I don't believe any of them.
No way.
But also, they are 18-team conferences now. They're huge. I don't know, do they go to the SEC? Do they go to the Big 12? Do they go to the Big 10? Probably not.
They're just trying to get to a big boy conference like Big Brother UCF already did.
When you said
I've
that
been
in
waiting
my
for
ear,
minutes.
I didn't acknowledge it because
Yep.
I just didn't.
You didn't want it on
to be
the
a
air?
part of this.
A legitimate question about it, though. A legitimate question is: do you think that if FSU didn't go undefeated this season, that they would still be throwing this stink about the ACC? Because I do too. It just happens to look more like, instead of when UCF claimed a national championship, it's FSU being well, we're going to blow up the whole thing because you didn't let us in. Where I think actually in reality, as you guys were stating, even if they went 9-3 this year, they'd probably still be making that argument about the ACC.
They absolutely would. I just don't think it would be, because they've already made this argument before. This is not the first time they've talked about this. This is not the first time.
It's just the momentum now.
I think that it may have been something that would have waited a year or two, but this is absolutely a secondary push in response to being left out of the playoff.
I think this is a good time to raise money if you're at FSU, because you could be look, we've got a target on our backs now.
That Kirk Herbstreit put there.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but by the time people listen to this, the Board of Trustees may have already met, and if they do meet, they may be meeting to produce a, quote, a legal filing in what many describe as the first step to achieving an exit from the ACC's binding grant of rights agreement. So anyways, that's from Ross Dellinger, where a lot of this reporting is coming from. Good stuff, Lucy. I will see what happens. Maybe everyone should be independent. I don't know. Independence, not the worst thing, right, guys?
Chip Kelly had the right idea until he went into 64-team conferences. All right, you need to calm down there. But Notre Dame, gosh, they've been doing it right. But we've wasted so much time on Florida State. Not that we're sad about it, but someone deserves to talk about them. They didn't make the playoff. Let's talk about our New Year's Six Bowl.
Should we start with the one that Florida State's playing in, the Orange Bowl?
Yes, the Capital One Orange Bowl here in Miami.
I see what you did there. Playing against Georgia. Georgia's a heavy favorite. Florida State's got a lot of opt-outs. They're already an underdog. Georgia's also got a lot of opt-outs. This is like a game of like, I don't know who's playing.
Yeah, I'm not going to bet this game because Florida State has enough opt-outs that you should be concerned. Georgia also does, but those are, Georgia specifically, as I'm wearing a Georgia hat, is a school that just kind of cycles in 5-stars. So we're just going to see the next, like crop of NFL first rounders with Georgia. It's going to be a good game. These are two teams that are both very respectfully unhappy to be there. But I think it'll have a lot of eyes on the game. It's not a game that you can really predict because we genuinely don't know who's playing.
I still give an edge to Georgia. So if I'm making a pick, my pick is Georgia.
I'll do the same, but I'd rather see Florida State win. That's the absolute funniest case scenario.
Just remember that if Florida State wins, it's because Georgia didn't care. And if Georgia wins, it's because FSU never deserved to be there.
Yeah, I mean, that is kind of the thing with like the bowl game era now is that it's like really difficult to take any sort of stock in any program. I will say, like, obviously the playoff games are an exception. I do think that players still, not all of them and not all the time, do take a little bit more stock in the New Year's 6 games, which is why we're talking about those. But like, if we go back now to talk about the Cotton Bowl, like that's another game that I'm like, these are two teams that I would have loved to see play in the regular season. I think that would have been a really fun thing to watch. Missouri, I think maybe is like a 1-point favorite in this game, but Ohio State's quarterback, who was 11-1 this season, transferred to Syracuse. He's not playing. Their backup, Devin Brown, is probably going to start. We still don't know if they're even going to get a quarterback in the portal next year. Maybe they're waiting to see how he plays. I don't know. Marvin Harrison Jr., their best player, maybe is playing, maybe isn't playing. We're taping this ahead of time, so I have no idea. Missouri, though, has been like such a fun team this year. They have like all these great skill position players. They have this running back who got a first place Heisman vote, Lucy.
And he earned it. He earned it.
He had a great season, finished with like 1,500 yards, 13 touchdowns, averaging 6 yards a carry. I don't know who to pick in this game either. Ohio State, I kind of want to give an edge to, but I wouldn't be surprised if Missouri won it.
This is a game that's like a surprisingly like good talent matchup. Like you wouldn't really expect that from Mizzou, but as we kind of talked about earlier on the main show, that they have just been crushing it when it comes to recruiting and the portal and stuff. Ohio State is just the vibes are so off right now because it wasn't like, okay, Kyle McCord just transferred. Kyle McCord was like, this was miserable and I hated it here and I want to leave so bad. So vibes are kind of off with Ohio State right now, so I'm leaning Mizzou, but like I could see it going either way. Ohio State's obviously one of the most talented teams in the country, as they are all the freaking time.
I have a question. How do you guys get Heisman votes?
I want
That's
one.
a good
I think
question.
Dan has one.
His dad, I believe, still has one. And
I don't
hasn't
think I
been
would
on
ever
television.
get one because I'm too much of a homer.
Yeah, I'd pick Iowa's punter every year.
Yeah.
I do think I deserve one.
What is
I mean,
the
Dan
official-
voted for Jordan Travis.
Yeah, what's like the
people
application
voted for
process?
Jordan
Like, what do we
Travis.
do to get you guys in? How
Mike,
do we start a
Gojo
campaign?
has a Heisman vote.
Yeah.
I'll ask him. But he's also a homer.
Yeah,
But
that's what I'm
a-
saying.
Yeah.
You're telling me that people in Tuscaloosa that have Heisman votes aren't voting for Alabama? Get out of here.
Someone did vote for Cody Schrader, which I don't know
He
who it
deserved
was,
it.
but it's very
Could've
funny.
been me.
Someone voted J.J. McCarthy, gave him a first.
Yeah, that one was crazy.
first place pick too. I mean, I could have seen it if like we voted in like week 9.
Yeah. If that were a week 6
But
vote,
he-
I would have said good call.
Yeah, he didn't get any other first place.
They let
votes.
him throw the ball 8 times against Penn State. Be so serious.
There's 928 electors. Like, that's a lot. Exactly. What
Yeah,
what
we
would
should
it
get
kill them to
one.
have 930? You know what I mean?
Gen CFB.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of games that I don't know who to predict a winner in, and also Penn State and Ole Miss in the Peach Bowl. On the one hand, Penn State, James Franklin wins New Year's 6 bowl games. He has a decent record in them. On the other hand, some of their best players are gone. Chop Robinson, I believe, is not playing. Manny Diaz, their defensive coordinator, is now the head coach at Duke. You may remember him from the 2021 coaching carousel season on the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz when he was the Miami head coach.
The guy who has the same record as Mario? Or,
Jer Bear.
sorry.
Easy. We don't slander the U on the show.
Never.
Save that for the main show and say it to Mike's face. Just kidding, we do.
It looks like the Heisman voters are broken down by region, and it's an equal number of voters per region. And like, I don't want to be a snitch, but Gojo moved, so should he still have a vote when he switched his location? Also, are we? I don't want this to take a dark turn. Are we hoping people die and then votes become available? Or?
I feel like if it's by region, then being in the Southeast is going to work against us because there's probably a lot of Heisman voters in this region.
I could lie.
I mean, look.
I lived in LA.
I think that it would be.
Still live there.
It'd be great. Exactly right. It'd be great for Meadowlark to have one or two Heisman voters, like, and if that required you guys moving back to where you lived previously, like, I feel like it raises the credibility of the show and the company, right? And you'd be doing it in the best interest of the company, would you not?
Yeah, I think it'd be
let's
really good.
apply an expense. I assume you apply, right? Or do you get invited? I don't know. But if we have to apply and pay a fee, we'll just expense it to Dan. I think that's a good
Sounds fair.
good
think that's
solution. I don't know who's going to win the Peach Bowl, Lucy. Penn State's favored. Ole Miss, I mean, they both had like really good seasons, but couldn't beat those top teams on their schedules. I have no idea.
I'm leaning Penn State. I know Manny Diaz is out. I believe they made a hire. I believe it's Tom Allen, the old Indiana coach.
Which is so crazy to me because he got a huge buyout and he's like, yeah, I'm going to go live in State College and like keep coaching. Like I would be gone. You would never see me again.
I'd be on a boat. I'd be posting a little picture like Dan Mullen, but not Tom Allen.
We need to talk about that too.
Yeah, no, I actually really like that hire. I think Penn State wins. I do think both of these teams are too, like, on the overrated side when just how we discussed them this year. This is a game that we're going to see like 1,010,000 times when the playoff expands to 12 teams. This will be 5-6, like pretty much every single year or whatever that matchup is.
Yeah, this would be a great like first round of next year game.
I really love Penn State's defense. I don't think there's like anything about it. I think they're really, really good. James Franklin does coach well in these games. Ole Miss is a team that's just like, it is very hard for me to trust them, and I understand it's hard to trust Penn State as well. But that defense is phenomenal. So I guess I'm going Penn State.
All right, I'll go Ole Miss just to be contrarian. All right, Liberty and Oregon. I think we both are team. We're not even gonna have time to talk about the playoffs. This is ridiculous. This segment is ridiculous.
It is.
It should be double.
Spent too much time on FSU.
Let's skip the Fiesta Bowl. We both pick Oregon.
Yeah,
Alabama and Michigan, Lucy.
The more I look into this game, the more I think about this game, the less confident I feel in Michigan. J.J. McCarthy has not played well as of late, and my big thing, and I know we can't use Iowa as a judgment point, but oh my God, when I watched that Big Ten championship game, if Iowa had a third of the offense, they would have won. Michigan could not score on short fields. Michigan's defense is very, very good, but they have yet to face a quarterback even remotely of the caliber of Jalen Milroe. This is also the first time Alabama's going into a playoff without a ton of expectations. I think they're more on Michigan in this point just because of what's happened this season. I just do not think that Michigan has the talent. I don't think they have the offensive explosion to match up with Bama. And which is crazy. We could have avoided this all had Auburn, finished out the game.
They lost their right guard against Ohio State. That's a huge loss for them. They've had to shuffle around their O-line. Like you said, J.J. McCarthy has been like shaky. I'm not sure if it's because they've just gone against really good defenses or because he's banged up. I read an article that a lot of like opposing coaches think that he may have gotten hurt later in the season.
Yeah, I read that as well.
They also haven't played, like you said, against a quarterback like Jalen Milroe who can run, who's like really going to put pressure on your defense and take off when he has the opportunity. So I'm excited to watch this game. I mean, I'm obviously I'm an Alabama fan now. Always been. Roll Tide, big Tommy Rees girly. So I want Alabama to win. Also, wouldn't be surprised if this went either way. I think this is going to be a really fun game to watch, but I'll take Alabama.
I like Texas-Washington. I think that's going to be the best game of the day. This is a game that people are really, really buying into Texas for, but something about Washington, I've doubted them the whole year, and I've been wrong every time. So I'm not going to do it again.
I don't doubt Washington. I think this will be... So we have two of the best offensive play callers dueling with Brian Grubb and Sark, and I really love Washington. The fact that they've had a month or so off, and Michael Penix, I know there was questions if he was hurt at the end of the year too, but he looked pretty good in the Pac-12 championship game.
Yeah, he looked great in that game.
So I don't know if he's hurt or maybe just needed a little.
He was just
break.
Feeling wonky. That Washington State game, he was wonky as hell.
But they have three receivers that are, when they're all healthy, who do you throw the ball to? It doesn't matter. They're all insanely good. Rome Odunze is probably the best on the team. He's physical, he's fast. He's going to play in the NFL next year. And then Dylan Johnson, their running back, also the second half of the season was really, really good, like we talked about. So Washington's offense is super legit, and Texas's defense is also super legit. They've got like this insane D line, so it's gonna be really crazy. It's probably gonna be a pretty high scoring game. It's gonna be a fast game. I think I like Texas, Texas Alabama national championship.
That was such a fun game, so I wouldn't be that mad if I saw that national championship game again, but I kind of want something different. I think it's really funny that Alabama barely made the playoff, and if they win the whole thing, that's a bummer for my agenda.
That's why Saban's the king, dude. Because just when you think he's gone,
this would be the perfect retirement spot.
he's gonna coach for the rest of eternity.
He also
He's
won
out
it
of
as a
the
4 seed the year that another Florida school went undefeated and didn't make the playoff.
All right, Jeremy, that's enough
You're
for you.
done.
Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, everyone.
Shut up, Jeremy.
Go Bulls.